Welcome to NYIT Roundtable. I'm Tanya Carvalho. We're here today to talk about bullying. It's estimated that at least 1/3 of all children in the United States are affected by bullying in some way. Joining me at NYIT Roundtable today, we have Ronnie Benson and Ginger Lieberman, who are the co-directors of Bully Frog. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining us today.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
Great. So, Ronnie, what is the Bully Frog program and how did it all get started?
Well, it started about 20 years ago. Ginger and I partnered up with some police detectives doing gang conferences on Long Island when the thought was that the gangs were migrating from the West Coast to the East Coast, and no one wanted to know about it. And then it eventually sort of became a logical thing that the younger children that were involved with the bullying were the actual candidates to be involved in gangs. But we focused in on bullying because no one seemed to have an answer. And then we researched children's literature, and we found that most children's books that had the character of a bully, at some point before the end of the book, someone will stand up to the bully, but the bully's still fully in character as a bully, searching for his or her next victim. So we are passionate about early intervention, being proactive about bullying, and what's going on today in schools. It is an epidemic.
So when would you say this epidemic first started? Either of you can answer this.
I think it's been around for a very, very long time. It's just gained more recognition because there have been different ways that suicide has come to the forefront, whether it's kids at a younger age committing suicide, it's kids reporting incidences of bullying, and I think as it became more in the forefront, that's when everybody started to talk about what are we going to do about it.
And also this year, for the first time ever, the American Academy of Pediatricians has mandated that bullying be part of a child's annual physical intake interview. And they have labeled it a national health epidemic.
So there really is an epidemic going on right
Epidemic.
now. So how would you define bullying? What is it? What are the types, Ronnie?
Well, we think the most inclusive definition is to say a conscious, willful, and deliberately hostile behavior. The bully knows exactly what he or she is doing. They know exactly the result they're looking for. It's intended to harm someone else for their pleasure. Bully can only feel good about who he or she is by making someone else feel badly. And just to add to that, we always say to the kids and to the adults we speak to that bullies are cowards. They will choose their target very carefully as someone who they know cannot stand up to them physically or verbally. And Ginger can
Yeah,
talk
there's
about
really
different types.
5 types of bullying. When we talk to children, first we start off with the physical bully, which is quite obvious what they do.
Just what everyone thinks about.
Right. The verbal bully uses words that they're going to get to your heart and they're going to hurt you. And those live on to the day you die. People can tell you some things that someone said about them that hurt them so much that they can never let it go. Then there's intimidation, and that's using body or strength or just eyes to scare somebody into doing something. Relational aggression is the big thing. It's the girl bullying, even though boys are now part of it. It's the one-on-one meanness, it's the exclusion, the shunning. It's making someone feel like they just don't belong. And the newest one that we've been talking about before it even had a name is cyberbullying. And that is really, the use of any kind of electronic devices to get to somebody. But that is probably now the one that is doing the most harm.
And getting onto what Ginger said about the cyberbullying, and back to what I said about the cowardliness, they now have the ability to do things they wouldn't have the courage to say to someone's face.
Exactly.
They can do online, often anonymously.
Behind a computer.
And it's uncharted territory, and the things that they say and the meanness of the words, and it's out there. It used to be written on a bathroom wall, something mean. Now it's out there on the World Wide Web for everyone
And
to
I
see.
think
So.
another important thing is that today children have to understand teasing is going to go on every single day. We have to define, or you have to be able to differentiate teasing from bullying, which is a very important thing. The governor has just passed a new law now, and that is really that any child who feels that he or she has been bullied in school, there has to be a response, a reporting, and everything else. We have to teach our children, though, what is bullying and what is teasing, and to really be able to differentiate between the two.
And, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but one thing that comes to mind is, do parents know that this is going on, or are the children just embarrassed to come home and say, listen, Mom,
That's
I'm
a
being
very,
bullied?
very good point, because when we say epidemic, it's also the epidemic of silence. It's the lack of communication between children and parents, children to children, children to teachers, And part of our mission when we go into schools, whether we're speaking to the children or the parents or the staff, is encouraging that silent majority, the observers of the behavior, to come forward, because the child who's often the target doesn't have that courage or feels uncomfortable, especially a boy going home telling his dad, that something is, going on in school. So it's to encourage that communication.
And I think the cyberbullying has added a different dimension to it. You go into any place and you see kids texting. They could be in the same room. You don't know what's going on. When kids used to speak on a phone and they were having a fight, a parent could hear it.
Absolutely.
They could hear a tone of a conversation. Or you had actually two kids in the same room having a conversation,
Right.
and you saw body language. Now they hide behind their computers. So many of them, when we talk to students, have them in their bedrooms without any parental supervision. You don't know what's going on. And we have seen the things that kids have said about each other. They could destroy a person's life in a second. And it's not one-on-one. I send it to you, the whole world now has it.
I was just going to ask you that. I mean, it's out there for everyone to see, including your peers.
Yeah, and it's, we sort of keep using the word epidemic, but, this that we're discussing now hasn't even touched on the strangers online. And, we've been doing this for quite a number of years, and in the last year or so, younger and younger children are raising their hand when we say, has anyone here ever talked to a stranger online or maybe pretended to be someone other than who you are? And we say, we're going to ask you teachers not to look. They're waving their hands wildly.
Right.
And this is
It's
across socioeconomic levels. This
Right.
is like the best schools and the nicest schools and
Right.
schools where you think kids can't afford it. Everybody has access.
And we'll
to
definitely continue to talk about this epidemic, both bullying and cyberbullying, happening right now in schools as we speak. We'll be right back.